Hi everyone, my name is Linnea and I am a psychic medium and exorcist from Vancouver, Canada. And I'm going to be starting to do a YouTube series discussing entities, demons, ghosts, discarnate spirits, and then I will also get into a series on the higher level of beings as well, such as angels in the goddess realm and the gods realm and the ascended masters and stuff like that. But one area that I found that never really gets touched on or explored too deeply is the one, the dark side of the spirit world. I think it's a lot due to lack of education and understanding. I feel that it seems, well, from my research anyways, it seems to be that most of this information out there comes from either a right wing or a left wing. I try to kind of walk down the middle of the road as much as possible and gather as much scientific evidence as well as spiritual evidence, and then put it all together and then see what we get. Because I'm the first person, believe me, anybody who knows me, I will be the first person to call bullshit on something that's not real. Not everything is going to be explained away in a spiritual or a woo-woo kind of answer. That being said, science is just finally starting to catch up with metaphysics, right? So we're just starting to even understand our world around us and how it's working from a 3D and a 4D perspective even. So a lot of the stuff that we might have said was witchcraft and crazy and coming from the devil, 30, 40, 100 years ago, nowadays we're actually able to explain it a little bit more. So I kind of want us to start the series off with things that go bump in the night. So we're going to talk about demons and entities and ghosts. I have some great footage in some of my upcoming videos of live ghosts caught on tape. Oh my God, this one it's really good. And I'm really impressed with how clear we can actually hear the voice and see things moving in it. I was able to validate it. It is 100% authentic. And we have some other photographic evidence and stuff like that of an angelic connections and stuff like that. So in my series, we're going to kind of go through all the different levels of entities and beings, what they do, why they're here, what they can do, and also teach you a little bit about psychic protection and what should you be scared of or what shouldn't you be scared of. I don't really believe in coming from a place of fear. I believe in coming from a place of education and empowerment. That is, to me, above all, the most important thing to me. A little bit about myself. I'll give you a little background because, you guys don't know me from a hole in the wall. Oh my God. I think I just aged myself. Anyways. So I remember my dad saying to me, before he passed away, that when I was like 3 years old, we'd be hanging out and I'd start babbling off about grandma and grandpa and so on and so on. And when I got older, he was kind of like, you were one creepy kid, because grandma and grandpa and everybody I was talking about were actually all dead. But I had their names and information and stuff like that. But nobody really talked about it in my family. And, I lived with my mother for the most part. And they were a very strict religious family. We'll just put it like that. So any communication with spirits or any of the things that I do is basically the work of the devil. So, I do have a very strong religious background and I do understand, where they're coming from. I have believed in studying many different faiths, many different religions. There's so much out there in this world, I don't know that there's just one book, one thing, one way. I think everybody has to really find their way that's in their own heart and follow their own path, So when I was younger, I would sit there in my room and I just remembered, it always being full, tons of spirits, people talking to me all the time. I never felt alone, even though I was alone most of the time. I grew up very, very, very remote in northern British Columbia. Like, we are talking no electricity, no flushing toilets. We lived in the woods, we lived off the land. And in a way, it was a really cool experience because it actually, I think it really fostered my connection to the spirit world and to being able to be an animal communicator and without any distractions of, the modern world, right? Um, and I remember laying there every night, like I said, listening to my spirits, having talks with them. I remember being terrified of some of them as well. And the day I shut down, I will never forget the very, very moment that I shut spirits out of my life. I would have been about 8 or 9 years old. And sorry, Mom, but I'm telling the story. My mom would order her sermons on tapes, and she would play the tapes at night. And there was one particular sermon, I was laying there in bed, and they were talking about spirits, and the demons and devil, and all spirit contact was basically, demons, and they were going to eat your soul or whatever the heck it was. I don't know. I just remember being, 9, 10 years old, or 8, 9 years old, and that leaving a really deep imprint on me. And then it was that moment I paused and I looked around my room and I realized that all these people that were in here were spirits. And then I absolutely froze in terror. And at that moment, I commanded every single spirit, everything out of my room, never to come back again. And I vanquished my room. And after that, it was absolutely dead silent. And then we ended up moving, so on and so forth. We moved to Ontario, civilization. And as I got older, I continued to always have some really strange, things happen. People would say, that, oh, you said that was going to happen, or, but to me, it was just a matter of it's normal. People are like, well, isn't it kind of cool? I don't know. Are you cool? Is your life cool? What you do cool? I don't know. This is just super, super normal, everyday stuff. Um, eh, Normal, I guess. But it's normal for myself and other intuitives, right? So that moment that I shut down, it was really based out of fear. And it took a long time for me to come back again and to let go of that fear and anxiety around the feeling of spirits contacting me all the time, because I would feel them and I'd push it away and push it away. And it wasn't until I was, in my late teens, early 20s that I started to make my way back to that again. I've had some pretty crazy encounters, and full disclosure, I was we'll call it rebellious teenager. I kind of did what I wanted. I experimented with drugs. I did all sorts of shit. Whatever. You learn from it, right? But in the process of doing that, I also discovered how drugs and entities are related as well. Because, being out there being super cool party chick, I contracted a lot of entities, and at that time I would see more and more and more of the dark side. But I realized I was opening up to it anyways, so it basically was just an accelerant, right? And I remember another very poignant moment in my spiritual path that I was standing, having a waking vision. And in my waking vision, I was walking in this place and it was pitch black. And the trees were just like these old, craggly, old growth trees that were gnarled limbs with no leaves on them. And the place was black. And there was no moon. But yet there was I could just see a little shimmer of silver moonlight coming over the trees. And when I looked down on the ground was filled with skulls, piles and piles of bones and skulls. And I was walking on this path. And I remember this voice, this being, this entity, and felt very, very powerful. It felt very demonic. But yet, here's the catch with entities. They're not all scary. That's the thing. That's how come they have this beauty and allure to it. The dark side does have an allure. And I wasn't scared of this being at all, but this being was basically beckoning me and saying, come down this path with me, and it actually didn't feel terrifying. It didn't feel horrible. It actually felt really peaceful. And I started walking down that path towards this darkness. And then all of a sudden something in me just stopped. I just heard, stop, don't do it. And you have a choice. And this is going to seriously affect your entire life, what choice you make at this moment. And I kind of took a breath and I stopped, and then I looked around me, and then it was like, as I saw it clearer, everything, I could smell the rotting flesh and the decay, and the sparkle and the glamour started to like disintegrate before my eyes. And at that moment, I was like, no, I want out of here. I don't want to go down this dark path. Help me. And I shit you not. Honest to God, I probably wouldn't even believe me if I didn't experience this stuff. I'm not kidding. At that moment, and by the way, I wasn't high. At that moment, I felt this massive white light come down from behind me, and it felt like giant wings wrapped themselves around me, and I heard the name Michael. And next thing I know, I was out of that underworld, and I woke up and I was standing there, and I was in absolute shock and awe. And I took me a while to process this. I was like, okay, all right, that was pretty crazy. So obviously my soul made a very large decision at that point, you know. So I do believe that people that can see the underworld, you know, and I think that's why it is a difficult line for a lot of people to walk, to be able to see the underworld and see all the glamour actually that there is in the underworld, and not get drawn into the illusion of it, and to stay grounded in the light. I think that that's actually could be a very difficult path for a lot of people. So flash forward a few more years, more strange encounters, more things happening. And I still, you know, even after all of that, I still was like, I don't know if I believe in this. I don't know if this is real, because this isn't tangible. I couldn't touch it. I couldn't, you know, couldn't hold it in my hand. I couldn't take a picture. I couldn't record it. So I still really fought within myself if this stuff is actually real or not. And this one's a long story. I am actually writing a book about this. So in my book, I'm going to get into some of these background stories a little bit further, but so we're just going to kind of fast forward and get to the guts of what I'm talking about in the YouTube videos. So the next major pivotal moment for me was, I was probably, I think about 23, 24, something like that. And I had met up with some not so savory people in the metaphysical community. I was just young. I had no idea. I was going out looking for answers. You know, why do I feel like this? Why am I having this dream? You know, literally just looking for answers from anybody that I could, because I didn't understand myself. And, you know, this is kind of pre-Google. You know, and there wasn't even a lot of books or anything out there on these types of subjects of psychic development, being a clairvoyant, etc., etc. So I'd gone to people within the metaphysical community, certain witches and stuff like that. And long story short, I do feel that there was, you know, some animosity, maybe some jealousy, something went on there. And I ended up getting quite psychically attacked myself. So I had to learn what was going on around me, plus figure out how to defend myself from a psychic attack. And at that point, I was also going through a major healing time in my life, and a huge energetic shift in my life as well. I was leaving that old life behind me, but yet I was still carrying my old demons and the old entities and the stuff that I had picked up from people over the years. I was carrying all that heaviness with me. And I do understand why people would look at me and call me a black witch, or that I was dark or whatever, because if you were in tune enough, you could see that stuff around me. But that's not me. That's the stuff that I am able to attract or connect to. It has nothing to do with me. So I ended up becoming quite sick via this psychic attack. It was for months. I was getting sicker and sicker. And I kept feeling this presence around me, and I kept hearing the name Kuan Yin. So through a series of synchronicities, you know, picking up a necklace and then going, wow, this is really cool, flip it over, realize it was Kuan Yin. Somebody gave me a statue. Turned out it was a Kuan Yin statue. You know, this Kuan Yin reference kept coming to me over and over, and I looked it up and I was like, oh, this is a goddess of compassion and love, and she's a really beautiful goddess. And she obviously had something to teach me. And I was still, okay, cool, cool. Um, and, what's the point here? And then there was a period of 3 days, three full days of when I was at the peak of my psychic attack. I got to the point where I was so exhausted I could hardly walk. I couldn't think. I couldn't move. I was being plagued by nightmares and nightmares. And then all of a sudden the nightmares became night terrors. And I've had nightmares, but I can control my dreams. So I know they're scary, but I'll stop my dream, control it. This was something completely out of my realm, beyond my control. I felt this demonic presence with me, and then I could see it in my dreams, and every night it would come to me, and it was literally looked like almost like the classic demon, It looked like it was 30 feet tall with a 20-foot wingspan on it, the claws, the crazy looking face, the whole, cliche almost devil look to this thing. I knew it would have been the equivalent of an archangel in the demonic world was what was attacking me. It was trying to literally rip my soul to shreds. And I tried to fight and fight and fight this thing. And it just wouldn't stop. And then Kuan Yin came to me that one night in my dream. And she said, you need to ask for help. You can't do this on your own. And I was like, okay, I give. Fine, help me. All right. And I'll believe. And then she's like, okay. And then I saw the chains go around this demon, and she pulled it back from me. But, as it left me, it literally left claw marks across me. This thing was able to actually enter into the 3D world and cause me physical harm. Again, this is really a rare thing, but I'm grateful for the opportunity because now I've been there, done that experience. I've battled my own demon. So I'm not coming from a place of like, oh, I read this in a cool book one day, don't worry, it'll be okay, don't be scared. I literally have been there, and I know how to stand in front of the demon and tell it to bugger off, and learned how to control my fear. And that's the biggest key when working with entities. It's all about the fear, and it's all about controlling your fear. So as this went on, the dreams, they kept going, and the waking visions kept going, and within a few minutes or whatever, an hour, I would say, no, I don't know if I believe in this anymore. No, this doesn't seem real. No. And I turned my back on it. Then Kuan Yin would let go of the demon again and allow it to attack me, even though the whole time I was aware it was still shackled. Like, I knew it wasn't actually going to straight up kill me because my guides and spirits and people did have it under control, but they were teaching me a super hard lesson because I have a thick skull. There is no other way that they're going to get it into me. Anyways, so this battle of me saying, yes, I believe, I'm going to become a believer, and then me turning around 10 seconds later and saying, no, I don't believe, then they let it go, and on and on and on this went for 3 days. Until by the end of the third day, I literally laid out on my lawn in the backyard, planted my face down in the grass, and just kind of like sprawled out there and was like, I give. Like, I literally give up. I'm letting go of the fear. I'm going to confront this. I'm going to believe in this. I'm going to work with you guides, and I'm going to work with the Ascended Masters, and I'm going to work with these higher level beings. Fine. I get it already. And it was, okay. Seriously, I honestly wouldn't believe this shit. So the next minute I look up and I see this white dove coming out of this bush. And there was a rainbow. I shit you not. And there was a rainbow that came out of nowhere. And I was like, wow. For anybody who knows the story of Noah's Ark, that was like pretty biblically relevant, And it's interesting how the universe will send you metaphors in the forms of and imagery in the forms of things that you would understand and know, right? So having the religious background, the metaphor of the rainbow and the dove was about peace, and that I'll never have to experience that again. And actually, that's where this little chunk of hair of mine started going white, was right after that, my first actual showdown with a demon. I quite like it. And it's getting whiter because I've had a few more showdowns. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm coming from. And I'm going to be launching a whole bunch more series about these subjects. I just wanted to kind of give everyone a little background, who I am, where I'm coming from. And if you have any questions or any ideas that you want for YouTube videos, please let me know. And while it's YouTube, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, share, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, peace out. See you next time, guys. Bye.